This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show. Your war room for insider news and draft analysis from deep within the confines of Cowboys headquarters at the Star in Frisco. And now, your host, Kyle Yeomans.
Today is Tuesday, April 1st, 2025. We are officially in draft month, just 23 days away from the NFL draft. Welcome into the Draft Show presented by Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. It is Miller time. Starting to get exciting around these parts. 30 visits starting this week. We've got a lot of information flying around at the owners' meetings, a whole lot of information still compiling into the board as we speak, but this is the final stretch as we work into April. And no, that is not an April Fool's joke. We've got Zach Olchuk, Brian Broaddus, Voch Lombardi, Bobby Belt with Chris Beam in the back. Glad you're with us, everybody. This is an exciting time, gentlemen. Brian, I know there's a lot of talk about rules and explanation of rules and all that stuff, but it's still a lot of draft talk at the same time.
Biggest thing I heard was that the head coach today told us that he wasn't interested in getting his coaches involved in scouting, which I thought was cool.
I liked it.
I guess I kind of made that up in a way. You know, he said no. He was even talking about how his guys, you know, hey, listen, these guys, the scouts, it's their job, it's their responsibilities and stuff. That was something I know that we had talked about on a couple different platforms about this. That would the first year. Would Brian Schottenheimer say, hey, I'm going to let the scouts do their job. I'll be there to kind of be to moderate what's going on, much like with Bill Parcells and what he did when he first came here. Let the scouts do their job. You learn the scouts and then adjust that way. Schottenheimer's been here before, but what the situation is in that chair, he's going to almost be like the vice president of the United States. He's going to break ties. And so that's where he has to be very mindful. And the fact that he was talking about the scouts do their job, I think that's some of the best news I heard coming out of the owners' meetings today.
And then Schotty talking about building from the outside in, right? So he did mention edge rushers, but wide receiver corner seems like that's going to be very much in play there at pick number 12.
Yeah, just to be messy, right? Because I like good mess.
It is a toxic Tuesday.
Do you think that's like a Schottenheimer thing that I'm just gonna let the scouts do this, right? Or he's been in the building so long, he's going, man, that coach, if this pick up, this coach, damn boy, the scouts would be fine, but this coach said some nonsense right here. I'm just gonna let them fly because I've been around.
It's a largely new coaching staff, and a lot of these guys he talked about that, like when he got during the hiring process, he didn't know a lot of them very well. He had like taken recommendations and things like that. So I don't know that he's got a great handle on what kind of evaluators they all are at this point. I mean, some of them he would know.
No, the old guys. I'm talking about the old coaches.
Oh, yeah,
Like he's seen coaches mess a draft up, so he's going to go, man, you know what, I'm just going to keep my hands off this and let Will and the guys do it. That's what I'm asking.
I think it may be a little bit more of a respect element for the scouting department, for the guys that they have found before. I mean, Tyler Smith was a pick that no one had their eyes on, at least going into the final weeks of the draft. He ended up being an all-pro. I mean, there's a lot of different elements, and that's just one example. But I think it's more so Schottenheimer's been around the building. He's seen the job that Will McClay and his staff put on the table year after year after year. And so he says, it's not on me to mess that up and try and shake things up along the way.
I like it. However we paint it, as a scout sitting there, you have to feel like, okay, this is on us, guys. I mean, you know, he's going to tell us, the coaches are going to say, and to Bobby's point, there's a lot of coaches that haven't been in the National Football League. You got some college guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, they could tell you like, hey, you know, when I was at Kansas State, you guys kind of saw the players we played with, the offensive line. You kind of have an idea of that. But overall, though, I mean, I think it's a very, very, at least for the first draft, kind of get a feel, get an idea of what coaches can evaluate and which coaches can't. And as you move along, Will know that, and then he'll be able to say, okay, if this guy gives his opinion about a player, I need to take it, or, okay, thank you very much, coach. Is there anything else we need to talk about here?
Yeah, it's really a coach's coach, scout mentality.
Never called a third down defense in my life. Never called a third down defense. So I don't, you know, and I think there's a place for coaches. I think there are some really good coach evaluators. I'm going to say this. I would have liked to have worked with Jason Garrett. As much problems as I had with Jason Garrett as some of the coaching things he did, I would have liked to work with him in the scouting department. I worked with his dad for a long time. I think there were probably some conversations he had at the dinner table with his dad about scouting. And I think he had a pretty good understanding about that. You can get some coaches that have some good evaluation takes.
Well, and you've got 23 days to kind of put your board together and finish out the way you think on this draft class. And when you've got a new coaching staff, you've got a coach that's been around for at least a little bit here in Schottenheimer, and then you got a scouting department that's done this the same way for a number of years too. It's easier to have overthink, and it's easier to have some miscommunication back and forth between those two sides if there is a full-on involvement. Now, everyone's going to have an involvement. It's just a different level of that across the board between the coaches and the scouts. But I thought the overthink side of things was interesting. And Bobby, you brought up the NFL.com article from Bucky Brooks this past week. You can go check it out. Of course, a friend of the show, former draft show analyst in his own right. But Bucky said, in the 2025 NFL draft, here's a list of names that you shouldn't overthink. And it kind of brought to the attention, we don't have to go by the same names. You can go by your own names. What does it mean to overthink a player? How easy is it to do that? And what are some of the names that fit that mold here in 2025?
So I think when I think of overthink as just obviously it can mean different things to different people, but whenever I hear anybody talk about that during the draft process, what they're talking about there is, something we've touched on recently, fatigue, like name fatigue, somebody who's been around a long time and you maybe get a little jaded towards hearing them. But a lot of times what I think about when I hear overthink is basically looking at anything that's outside of what they put on tape, like and hyper focusing on anything they put on. So Will Campbell's arm length. All right, are you going to be hyper fixated on that, or are you going to worry about, okay, but what did he look like on tape? Are you going to be worried about somebody's long speed or their time speed, or are you going to just say that guy looked great on tape, so I'm going to trust that? So that's generally how I look at it. Is just I know there are questions there that exist or that have popped up during the process relative to aspects that are important to the evaluation, but should they be trumping what we see on tape, which is a good football player?
Yeah, to your point, I mean, like Ted McMillan, right? I mean, the 40 time with him.
Sure.
He looks plenty fast when you watch him play. Like, to me, that's not a prospect that you should overthink. I think Ted McMillan's the best wide receiver in this draft class, and I wouldn't move him there based on, he didn't run an X amount of 40 times. So I do think there's a couple of these prospects. To your point, Will Campbell's another one. Yeah. Good player, right? But there's been the conversation, is he a tackle? Is he a guard? Bobby, I heard you make the comment about Rashawn Slater. They had that same conversation about with the arm length. Look, Will Campbell's tape's pretty darn good. Now, when he plays against one guy from South Carolina that I'd throw out as a not overthink it player, Kyle Kennard. Yeah. Kyle Kennard's a dude that is just absolutely productive.
Yeah.
And I think Kyle Kennard's one of these guys that's being slept on as an edge rusher. And he's going to end up being like a Byron Young, a Kobe Turner, one of these guys that a Keon White that ends up sliding maybe to the day 2, second, third round, ends up being one of the better pass rushers in this draft class.
You mentioned Ted McMillan and not overthinking Ted. Before we get away from that too much, there was a video that did pop up this past weekend on social media where he was talking about how he did not like watching football and he did not like watching film. Does something like that play a factor into overthink? Because, again, it's a factor, like Bobby said, that's outside of film, but it does have to do with the film, right?
Sure.
Does that play a factor at all in the way that you look at McMillan and the way that he moves forward?
Well, you got to find out, is it I just don't like watching football, or do you not love football? And I do think that's an old video, apparently, that has surfaced.
It's a couple years
from several years ago. So his mindset might have changed completely. And he didn't say, I don't necessarily hate watching film. He just does it with the wide receiver group. He's not going to go seek it out necessarily by himself. So you talk about a guy that everything that I've been able to hear, high character, comes to work every day. That's a dude that hasn't given you any other problems off the field. I don't think it's I don't love football. He just doesn't like watching football. And if you look at professionals across all sports, there's plenty that feel the same way.
See Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
See Micah Parsons.
Amari Cooper.
Yeah. See guys that, and this is a situation where if Ted McMillan didn't like football and you're watching his tape, you could tell that.
Yeah.
You could tell. But when you watch him, and right now we've got the highlights up of him just doing everything he can to get an extra yard or two, or to make a catch, or to sacrifice his body. If you don't like football, you don't play well. And I was watching, Jesse Holley was making some comments about it, and he was saying, well, you lose that edge. You lose that edge when you don't. But, if I had to ask you guys right now, power rank how these linebackers have played here with the Dallas Cowboys: Micah Parsons, Sean Lee, and Leighton Vander Esch. What order would you put those guys in?
Yeah, Micah would be at the top.
The other two guys watch film extensively.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yep.
But you guys just told me that Micah Parsons was the best player. So there are guys that play this game. I mean, if he didn't love the game and he came out and said, man, I'm just playing this so I can open my ice cream shop or become a doctor, pay for medical school, that's a concern. But you watch his tape. Don't overthink this. Yeah. Don't overthink this with this.
He doesn't look like, and I mean, obviously, you don't want to totally interpret effort or other things based off of tape all the time. Like, you don't want to just say, oh, that person's lazy. I know Baylor receivers used to run into that all the time. That's lazy when it was
scheme
part of what the scheme was. Yeah. But I don't think when you watch Ted McMillan play, like when you see him freelance and work back to the ball and do different things, that doesn't strike me as somebody who doesn't enjoy the game and enjoy what goes into it. Yeah. And so to me, I think that he does it. Does he show up like he looks like he studies all the time? That doesn't necessarily pop, but I mean, he looks like a guy who has a feel for the game, enjoys it, enjoys playing it. Plenty of people enjoy playing sports and not watching them. Plenty of people enjoy watching sports in person and not on TV. Yeah. Like, I mean, there's lots of different ways to explain that, I think.
Loafs matter, and we don't see loafs with him. We don't see, oh, well, I know the ball's not going to me, I'm just gonna kick it. Like, we don't see that from him. And as far as the whole film stuff goes, it took me a couple days to think about this because I was befuddled when I first saw it, because I thought about the headache guys or they may not love ball guys, but I think Dak will have something to say about that.
Yeah.
Like, hey, dude, hey, come get off your ass, come over here and
Especially
do X, Y, Z.
12 overall pick.
CeeDee Lamb has something to do with that, right? If you're a rogue player with no leadership in his locker room, then we may have something to talk about then. But there's going to be, like, if it is McMillan and he's here, there's going to be a clear pecking order that he's going to have to answer to as a young dude, and we're going to have to go from there. Michael Parsons, who kind of just rolls off the couch as a guy, Tank, what you gonna tell me and you ain't got a sack in 3 years? You know what I'm saying? So leadership may matter there. I don't think this is gonna be a big deal for this kid.
I think, and this is
this young man.
This is unfortunate, but I'm going to bring this up. I don't think Diggs is that type of guy. I don't think Diggs is a guy that's what we consider a guy that's just going to grind out on film and all that. He's a natural player. You can watch him play. You can watch him be in position. You can watch it. There's a lot of natural ability. But there are guys in this team that aren't big film watchers. When Ted McMillan said that and those guys saw that on social media, they're like, that seems pretty interesting. There's some guys that are like, I can't believe he doesn't like film. And then there's others like, man, that dude's got a lot of natural ability, And so, there are players in this league. And I brought up Diggs because I think Diggs is one of those guys that plays on a lot of feel, I mean, but you could study, but I don't think he's one of those guys that's just kind of knocking it out every single day like that.
Like, would I prefer somebody who does it that way? Yeah. I would prefer somebody who's like, I would prefer like Sean Lee everywhere.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
Some people can probably get away with less work than others. And you know what? I mean, they're probably.
I think Hunter's that way in this draft. I think Hunter is a player that plays with tremendous feel.
He's a feel player. I don't know that he's not putting the work though to watch tape.
I think he's probably
a super high IQ guy.
I think
he's super smart. But when you watch him run routes and you watch him cover, that is not a great route runner right there.
No,
I mean that is not a guy that's
backyard
like
football.
That is a guy who has been touched by God.
Yes,
and, mom and dad, and he is that type of a player. Yeah. I think this, and we had this discussion on 105.3 The Fan yesterday on the G-Bag Nation. I think if Hunter played one position, he would be great.
Yeah.
Playing two positions, you might not get his absolute greatness out of this.
Well, is that where the lack of polish comes from? Because he's not a super polished corner either.
That's what I'm saying.
But
how much? I mean, you wonder how much does he really study? You wonder. And I'm not saying he's just completely doesn't do it, but I see a player when you watch him play, the routes and stuff like that. They're not real. I mean, a lot of it is kind of feel, drive. I'm going to turn it here. I'm going to burst here. I'm going to use my hands here. I mean, there's things that he could do film-wise to probably set guys up.
Yeah.
I think he does it just by how he plays.
And I think because again, I mean, he is
I love the kid.
He's a full-time player on both sides.
Yeah.
So with him being a full-time player on both sides, maybe he's not got as I don't know that I have much time to sit here and start studying down on my technique and mechanics as a corner because I got to go do some practice.
Exactly.
So that can split you up. I would say this, that I will, as soon as he commits to one position and then is part-time another, because I don't think he's going to be full-time at both anywhere. Mm-hmm. As soon as he commits to one, I think he's going to become a really good technician really fast.
Agreed.
That's what I'm saying.
But he doesn't have the time to dedicate to one spot.
I don't know that there's a more naturally instinctive player at either position he's playing than any.
All feel. He freelances as a corner.
And he's a damn good athlete too.
He's one of the best we've ever seen.
Yeah, the athletic ability helps him hide a lot of the.
Yeah, you can be a really hard worker and have no instincts.
Absolutely,
and that can. I mean, I think that's for a long time what people felt like happened to Charles Tapper here. Yeah. Outside of just the injuries, I think a lot of people felt like that guy worked. He was a good person. He had all the traits. He just had no instincts, and I think that was a big.
For that position, it's hard to be that you can't play his position and not have instincts.
So, would you rather have the instincts as opposed to a film junkie, as we were talking about a moment ago? I mean, you would like to have both.
Yeah,
you would love to have.
But I'll take
not every player
is
like that.
I can't teach instincts.
Yeah,
you have the feel, or you have the instincts, or you don't. Yep. I can teach you how to watch tape.
Yeah.
Film dude is awesome, though, man. I was just thinking about Sean Lee for the past 10 minutes. Like, boy, I miss Sean Lee. He's just hurt guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, if he was healthy.
Yeah, for sure. Hall of Fame.
If Travis Hunter covered Travis Hunter for a full game, who gets the better of him?
I think Travis Hunter, the receiver.
Wow.
I think Travis Hunter, the receiver. I think Travis Hunter could be an all-pro receiver in this league.
So you think he could be a better receiver than a corner?
I put him on my board as a receiver. I moved him. The more I watched him play, and it all goes back to studying Shedeur Sanders. It all goes back to that and watching him play. And there are times when Shedeur Sanders is in complete trouble, and that guy bails him out. And so, to me, I know Vach and I haven't talked about this on our show, but we did these quarterbacks late, and the more I watched, I'm like, that guy right there could be an all-pro wide receiver.
Would you say that the cornerback Travis is better now, but the wide receiver Travis has more room to grow?
I think it's the opposite.
Okay.
I think the wide receiver's better now. The corner's got.
I think I think the traits for him as a receiver are, I think, ridiculous for him to be an elite route runner.
I think he could do more damage to you as an opponent playing wide receiver than he can corner.
For sure.
That's the nature of the position, though, right? To a certain extent.
Well, yeah, you could do damage by not throwing his direction.
Yeah.
That could be, but you watch him play down after down after down. Like I say, Vach and I got on these quarterbacks late.
Yeah.
I feel like I got on them late. I'm sorry, Vach. I know
I wasn't gonna watch him.
You weren't gonna watch it. and I respected that because I've been in your shoes.
Yeah.
I've been in that. Gosh, I do not want to watch these guys. But the more you watch Shedeur Sanders throw the football, you realize how special that number 12 is.
So, Bobby, just to feel around the league, does anybody kind of agree with that sentiment about the wide receiver? Because I had him on my board.
I think a lot of teams.
I think there are more people that have him as a receiver than that think he would be a better receiver. So it's split. I think there's some people who believe he's a better receiver. He's more valuable at corner, so we want to play him at corner. He's a better corner than he is a receiver. He's pretty split. We're going to play him at both. I think it's kind of all over the place. I do think that there's a growing contingent because it's very fractured in general how people feel about it, but I think there's a growing group that views it the way Brian does, that he'd be a better receiver. But ultimately I think most teams would play him at corner, because they would just say,
I know the Patriots are going to play him at wide receiver, and they're not going to play him at corner.
Cleveland's talked about playing him at receiver.
But my fear is the Giants pick him at 3. If you're a Cowboy fan, you should fear that.
Now you got Hunter and Neighbors. Ooh, that could be very scary.
Yeah, then you'll see
Tyrone Tracy.
Better.
Yeah.
Then they pick Milroe at the top
Tracy,
of the second, and away we go, right?
Yeah. Sure.
Then we can't stop the run and the receivers.
Well, I mean, that'd be great. They couldn't complete a pass. That would be helpful.
Old school football.
Does this whole work hard thing matter more for the later round guys than the super talented dudes? Like, if I got a second round guy, he doesn't work hard, he's more likely to be a bust than like a super talented, Travis Hunter type.
I think that goes back to what Zach was talking about. You can't teach instincts, and a lot of times if you have instincts, you're going to go early in the draft, right?
Yeah.
Because if not, you're getting knocked for certain elements, pros and cons of your game, and that's when you slide to the second, the third, the fourth round, and then get into day 3. I think if you have those instincts and you have that and you can pair it with the tape and the relentless studying, then all of a sudden you have the perfect prospects, and those are the guys that are very rare up at the top of the draft that don't have those red flags.
I think guys like Parrish from Kansas State. I think Huzzy from North Carolina.
Sure.
I think who else I got in that? Muhammad.
Yeah.
If you're undersized, you're already kind of working with something, a limitation.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Yeah. You better be studying. You better be kind of figuring out how to do things.
Yeah.
Because you're talented for your position. You're kind of a specialist in some ways.
You're right.
But you better know
Everything.
who you're playing against in that
Because you're
slot.
going to have to, make the team on special teams,
Sure.
right? You're going to have to put in the extra effort. You're going to have to be able to make sure, hey, I can tackle. I'm coming in here. When you're one of these premier athletes, there's a reason you're probably being picked in the first round. Now, when it comes to being good versus great, the guys that might want to put in the extra time, they're going to put in the film work. They're going to stay after and work the jugs machine after practice. Maybe that sets you apart. Maybe that's from a Pro Bowler. Now I'm an all-pro type of guy. Sure. I'm a 10-year-old decade team type of player versus just being one of the best top 10 at my position. That's where you can start fighting with the elite talent.
That's where Nate Newton has talked about before, where he found margins. Was he saw Troy Aikman work and he went, I don't want to let him down. And he's like, that was the biggest motivating factor he ever had to work was Aikman and the way that he worked.
Yeah.
And the way that then he was like, I can't let this guy down. I can't let this guy's work go for nothing. So I need to work. And he said Troy getting here and Troy showing his work ethic is what made Nate from just, decent player for 7-8 years, whatever it was, to one of the best offensive linemen in football for a 6-year run.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about Terrence Steele, right? Like, he came from this offense where they throw the ball 50 times.
Yep.
But the coach said, he work hard, and now he can run block his ass. So, like, he's a run-blocking offensive lineman now. You know what I'm saying? Brock Hoffman, as much as I roll my eyes about, Brock works hard. Brock works hard.
But I think you just answered your own question because those are undrafted free agent guys, right?
Both guys.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like,
So they got to
later-
work to get to where they're going.
Yeah. But we don't hear them saying about Tyler Smith. And this ain't me saying Tyler
That's
Smith
fair.
doesn't work hard.
No, that's
but
true.
Tyler Smith got like God gifts where he just rolled out the bed whooping folk. It's probably a little different.
And he may work just as hard.
He probably worked just as hard as them.
That type of stuff is that's going to come second to you destroying guys at the line of scrimmage and absolutely blocking half of the defense half the time.
But that is also the difference between Tyler Smith being a second-team All-Pro and us still waiting for Tyler Smith to click, is because Tyler Smith works.
Yeah,
and that's one of the things that the Cowboys worked on in the process was they went, all right, we know he's a good student. We know that he takes to coaching. He's young. This will come into place. Whereas if they didn't have that or he wasn't a worker, you'd probably be dealing with a lot more frustrating plays from Tyler Smith over the last 3 years.
Can I throw one more guy in that don't overthink?
Oh, I thought you were talking about Mozzie. I'm sorry.
Don't overthink Mozzie.
I thought you were talking about them. I thought you were talking about
Don't overthink.
You shouldn't
Mozzie.
overthink him,
Just go ahead and draft it one technique at 12. Is that what you?
hell yeah. Go ahead, Brian. And
Go get Derek Harmon.
Don't overthink Barron.
Jade Barron,
Don't overthink.
Yeah.
Texas corner. I like that.
Don't over.
Jordan Lewis will tell you that he's been little guy here for 8 years. Don't
overthink that.
They
one.
just can play. They can play, man.
Please don't overthink that one.
Any other names that you guys have out there that you don't want to overthink?
Please go ahead.
Jalen Walker, like in terms of just, I know you can't figure out what to do with him necessally. A lot of
I
people
know
feel
exactly
like,
what to do.
You know what to do with them.
but there's people who feel like he's tweener or whatever, like, he's
him like
kind of
Micah.
positionless. You'll figure something out. He's a good player. You'll figure something out. So don't let that paralyze
Does
you.
that worry you though when guys remember the guy Simmons that was at Clemson?
Isaiah Simmons just bounced around a little bit.
Does it worry you that a guy like that though? I mean, I'm just talking about we don't know what position.
Jack of all trades, master
we're
of
going to
none.
play him at linebacker. We're going to play him at safety, and then they don't play him either one, and he's.
Yeah, Jabril Peppers ran into that for a long time. But I mean, then for all those that you also then have like Shaq Thompson, who turns into a good football player. And so to me, I think Walker is just one of those where he's going to be a good football player. And I think that you shouldn't overthink him too much. Don't prioritize him over a Travis Hunter or somebody else, just Genty for me. But, I think that Walker is one that I wouldn't want to overthink too much. And then I think one of the other ones that stands out for me, and I don't know how much other people are, we already mentioned McMillan, but one of the other names I wrote down is because I have seen some people talk about, like, they just don't trust Igbuka's speed. And that's
he's
one
a
that
overthink it
I
guy.
think
He's ready to go right now.
that has, I told you this, Zach, that the guy he reminds
thanks
me
for
of.
telling the rest of us.
Well, I mean, we were on the phone. We were talking about player comps. The guy he reminds me of, honestly, when I went back and looked at my notes and everything else, it's Cooper Kupp. That's who he reminds me of.
Interesting.
And I think he's got better speed than Cooper Kupp, but the type of player he is, the way he tracks the ball down the field, the way that he works in zone, the way that he is, slot specific, the type of build that he is, that is who he reminds me of to a great extent, is Kupp coming out of Eastern Washington.
Is he a first-round player in any other draft?
No, I mean, I have him top of the second. I don't even have him.
Yeah. I've got
Okay,
him
because
second,
I know
too.
you have first, right? First.
I have him in the first.
But you have Golden above him, right?
I got Golden over him.
Okay,
Yep.
but in any other draft, All right, take Bobby out of this because he's actually going to. We'll see if he's right.
Last year's class, no.
Last year's class, any class, any of the last 3 classes.
Probably not. No.
Probably not, right?
No.
Okay.
Would you?
No, I'm just saying. I think to me, because he is the last guy. I mean, if I've got 15 players, and he's likely either 14 or 15 when I stack.
But heck, we had Ladd McConkey going round 2 last year. And that dude,
oh no!
I mean, so I think no matter what, he would have been a really good player. Yeah. But
Puka Nacua a couple years ago,
no doubt in the 5th. The other one that I'd throw out there is Donovan Jackson out of Ohio State, and we've talked about a lot of guards. Donovan Jackson, to me, I ended up putting him as my last 15th first round grade. I just think he's a stud. I think he's going to end up being a really 10-year
over
Booker. Yeah, I just think
bad for you.
I just think he's a 10-year player that's going to be really, really good. He's got better feet than Booker does. He can also move people off the line of scrimmage. He's not quite the mauler. Yeah. He doesn't have quite the power that Booker does. But I was so impressed with his ability to kick outside, play left tackle during that championship run for Ohio State. Kind of gave me Joe Tooney vibes, right? Who's been an excellent guard his entire career. Then in a pinch, he's got to kick out to left tackle. And until the Super Bowl, he's not getting his ass totally kicked. So to me, I love Donovan Jackson. I think he's a guy that is going to be a good pro no matter what.
That's standing up on the table right there.
No, I like it.
He can stand all he like, but he said the right thing. He's not as powerful as Booker.
He's not as powerful.
Like, okay, cool. I'll concede to that.
But I think his game overall, I like a little more.
You like who you like. That's cool. Booker better, but you like who you like, man.
We'll see.
I love Donovan too, though. Donovan's a dude, and I love that football thing where you go, I'll play left tackle against
don't ride the
Carter.
fence. He just stood up.
You think Booker can play left tackle?
Booker can't play left tackle, but if I'm drafting a guard, that don't matter to me because you do that same thing with Banks. You'll go, oh, Banks is a guard, but then you'll go,
but no, I got him a tackle. I got him a tackle.
But you'll say, may I finish?
No,
you
can't.
You ain't talking to me like
something. You accuse me of something I didn't say.
No, because we on the internet. You say, well, I'll put Banks at guard, and then I'll ask you, well, is Banks a better guard than Booker? And you will bring up Banks playing tackle, just like you would do with Donovan. If I'm just looking for a guard, I think personally Booker's a better guard than both of those.
I hate position flexibility. You know that.
Oh,
right?
well, we shouldn't be talking about Banks playing guard or
Campbell.
Or
I got him at tackle. I got him at tackle.
Okay, well, good.
And you're sticking him.
I think there's a lot.
You must
of
just change your mind on that because you've been saying Banks at guard for a while.
No, I absolutely changed my mind on that.
Okay, well, why you act like you have no clue what I'm talking about? You had him at guard.
I absolutely changed my mind.
No.
I just flip-flop now.
So the consideration of him,
for sure.
I personally, I'm worried about him playing either spot, to be honest with you.
Okay. I take that too. Late film wasn't as good.
Exactly.
Yeah. I agree.
All right, we got to take our first break. When we come back, we got some Twitter on the 20. Maybe one of these guys has Banks at a tackle or at a guard. We'll see what they think overall. But send us your questions. Twitter on the 20. More of the draft shows next.
Hey.
Life is a workout, and Smoothie King is here to help you power through. Whether you're maxing out overhead presses, pushing through chest flies, or being the hero your golden retriever needs to carry them over that scary bridge, Smoothie King has the fuel to help you go all out. Build muscle and boost your recovery with 45 grams of protein, 0 grams of added sugar, and delicious customizable ingredients in the Gladiator Smoothie. Available in chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla. Only at Smoothie King.
Hi, Drew Pearson, former Dallas Cowboy and now Pro Football Hall of Famer here. If you're struggling with your vision and tired of those contacts and glasses, don't throw a Hail Mary. Go where I went. Laser Care Eye Center, the official LASIK partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Drew, thank you so much for trusting us with your vision correction procedure. At Laser Care Eye Center, we offer 6 different vision correction procedures to help patients see.
Check them out at dfweyes.com. Tell them Drew sent you. Hood hood.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
Cowboys fans, when it comes to navigating the ever-changing world of tax, your business needs a partner it can trust to tackle even your biggest tax challenges. Ryan is the largest firm in the world dedicated exclusively to business taxes. Our team of tax professionals has local expertise in all areas of tax and can help you uncover savings opportunities you didn't know you had. Learn more about how Ryan can improve your overall corporate tax performance by visiting Ryan.com. Ryan, the official tax partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
Cowboys fans, get ready for draft weekend presented by Miller Lite at the Star in Frisco. The action kicks off on Thursday, April 24th with the Ultimate Draft Party, continues on Friday with the Draft Hangout, and wraps up on Saturday with the Draft Day 5K. Presented by Baylor Scott & White Health. 3 days of football, fun, and fan experiences you won't want to miss. Visit DallasCowboys.com/draft for details. Full weekend, full of fun here at the Star in Frisco. Of course, we'll be on the air an hour before each of the first picks along the way, and we're going all the way through each selection of the NFL draft here in 2025, as we always do. It is a great weekend. We got to think about so Saturday is when we got to get the breakfast tacos.
Yeah, the breakfast tacos. Well, I'll take care of that.
I feel like it needs to be a rookie thing.
No, we're
a rookie thing.
Veteran
Tommy Arish,
Tommy
and Vodge.
Yo, Hazen don't bother me, dog. Y'all just
Tommy's driving 50 miles away. I'm not eating cold breakfast burritos from Tommy. So no, it can't be the rookie.
You can get them over here.
That's so far.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, him and Nick are far.
We'll figure it out. They live in like Princeton. They're way.
I'll tell you what.
Princeton, New Jersey, basically.
About the third day. What I really like about the third day, because I think that it's really kind of where you can dig in on some guys. It's something that's worth tuning in that hour before the actual draft.
Yes.
We have that opportunity, and thanks to Roxanne and Chris and those guys in the back, of them grabbing coaches and scouts and stuff. And, man, you get some super insight of some of the picks that were made, earlier, and then maybe kind of set you up for what's going to happen in day 3. So encourage you all 3 days to watch. But, man, day 3, that hour before, it's one of my favorite times to kind of get an insight of what they were thinking when they were picking these players.
That might be the most informational hour of radio you could have.
Oh, no. I mean, I love
it's incredible.
It really is a lot of fun.
Like getting to talk with Chris Vaughn, Ross Winchie, all the scouts they're awesome. And then the position coaches like Lunda Wells comes in just dripping with swag, wearing the cowboy hat. And then it's awesome when you get the position coach and they've drafted somebody in that position group and you kind of get a feel for like what is the vision, what's the plan.
Well, a lot of times you get the story too.
Yeah.
Why they were there.
Exactly.
No doubt. Why you end up doing what they end up doing.
It's a pleasure. It really, really is.
Super informative.
And I mean, I think we're like 3 years in a row running where we've made like a documentary from those clips. Like not us making the documentary, but like those clips have been used in some documentary.
That's awesome.
Across the board, because it's an informational vast majority of that hour, and it's a lot of fun. All right. It's time now for some
Twitter on the 20.
Kyle, I got a question.
Oh my gosh, you can't take over Twitter on the 20.
Me and Woodchuck were talking in the break as I'm taking over Twitter on the 20. What's up, guys? Me and Woodchuck was just talking during the break.
Is Derek Eagleton watching this right now?
I hope
Is that
not.
what you're trying to do?
I hope not, because I ain't coming back tomorrow. Listen, when we're all watching film and evaluating players, right? And me and Broadus mentioned this for 1 week, and we just didn't bring it back up. When a player's played football for like 5 or 6 years, and they only got 1 good year, or like, damn, dog, you've been playing football and you still can't contain, you still can't do X, Y, Z. They still get you on that.
All these COVID guys.
How do you account for that when you're breaking down these guys? Perfect example.
Arroyo?
Princely Umaman Yellen.
You almost got it.
Boy, he been playing football for a minute.
Yeah.
Played in Florida and came on to Ole Miss, and they still take him off the field on rundowns. And he's a great pass rusher, but they still don't trust him to do the fundamental football stuff, right? But you've been playing for so long. What have you been doing some of those years, right? So maybe just in the back of my mind, we just talked about overthinking. Maybe that accounts for something when I'm moving them up and down my board.
No, it does. And I think the COVID years added an extra element into that, right? A lot of these guys, and this is probably the tail end of it, thank God. Yeah. But it adds an extra thing to where you've been in the in the college ranks for how long? I mean, there were some guys. I mean, you mentioned Arroyo. I mean, that's a guy who's
the
been
player
around
for
for
me
a
was
minute.
like Darian Porter, the corner from Iowa State.
Yeah.
Like that's a guy. Now he converted from wide receiver to corner, and he's a guy that I'm seeing as like a day 2 pick. His measurables are there for him, but he's essentially like a glorified special teams player.
Yeah.
But
a lot of
that's
times,
really what he was.
A lot of times we're quick to dismiss, and Brian brings it up every once in a while, but we're quick to dismiss the transfer portal and how these guys bounce from one school to the next because it's just the norm now, right? I think the same thing can be said for these extra years of eligibility, and along the way, you just got to have to keep it in the back of your head when you're evaluating these
Would
guys.
you consider that, and I know you and I've had this discussion about Shuck,
Sure.
the quarterback.
That was the exact guy I was thinking of.
Gross.
Why is he still doing that nonsense he's doing? You know what I mean?
No, 7 years, a couple broken collarbones, a broken femur along the way.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, is that 7 years good for him or bad for him?
I think ultimately it's going to be bad for him. I think it's going to impact him negatively. But I think some team is going to look at traits and they're going to look at the idea that we don't know what the hell we're doing with quarterback in the first place, and they just will gamble on him. But
Amen.
But you know, but with his traits though, some team would be like, oh, that's those are second round traits.
He's the prototype.
Brock Purdy.
Yeah. But he throw the ball to the other team for no reason.
Yeah,
and that'll be the reason why he'll probably be a day 3 guy. So it means something.
All right,
Day 3.
It's 11:36. We're gonna get to Twitter on the 20.
Kyle, I'm sorry, man. Botch on the 20.
Sorry, botch on the 20. All right, everybody.
20.
Cowboys Buzz on Twitter wants to know,
Cowboy Buzz?
name one player we could see at 12 that's not considered a top position of need, keeping that player or best player
Boy,
available
everybody wants him to draft a tight end.
as a conversation. Why is
Shedeur
that a
Sanders,
conversation?
quarterback out of Colorado.
Ew.
A quarterback's not a position in need, right?
It is
you
not.
got Dak Prescott. I think
Look what you did today.
I think every other position you could say is of need, but if Shedeur Sanders is there at 12, I think you've got to have that conversation, and I would take him.
What's player?
Whoa. What was that last part?
I would take him.
Sorry, Bobby.
I would take him.
I
think Shedeur's built.
Yeah. What's
built to be the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys?
Is this specific question? We're talking about a player that could be there. One we think they realistically could take because they're not taking Shedeur. I don't think it's 12. But
me either.
Jerry will stand up.
So we're talking about players we think they could realistically take who are not considered a position of need.
Correct. Yes.
Tyler Warren.
That's what I just said.
Yeah, that's the
tight
one.
end.
Yeah, I get more like, well, God, Fergie's not any good, and you know Fergie's struggled with some stuff.
Fergie's a good player.
He's a good player, but that's what I'm saying.
Struggled last year. All right, get off my guy.
I kind of feel like that.
Tried to come back too quick.
I feel like Mason Taylor. If you need to take a tight end, look
Take
at
him
Mason.
late.
Take Mason Taylor, but
Definitely take Mason.
yeah, but I think
Bring the whole fam.
I think to me you know what,
Bobby.
Huh?
44 though. Mason
He's got a
Taylor.
great family.
Big Jason Taylor
He does.
fan.
Yeah,
Does a lot of stuff in the community.
No,
It's
Zach
fine.
Thomas.
See, this doesn't work from 5:30 to 10. You know what I'm saying? But no, I think, like I say, that everybody's about drafting Warren at 12, and I like Warren, but man, there's just it answers the question because that's a position that you would probably take, but you don't need. I don't think.
Here's the problem. What don't they need right now?
Yeah, I think you could argue like every spot, except they do have a quarterback under contract, which is why I just threw out Shedeur.
So they have a quarterback and they have tight ends they've invested.
They might tell you they don't need a safety.
Yeah,
but even though they're bringing one in,
but is there a safety available at 12 that you would take? I mean, would you go up?
Oh, at 12? No, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying a position.
Sure,
I was just saying a position.
Gotcha.
But the Cowboys needing everything is the reason why I wouldn't draft Warren. I think tight end is just so luxury.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I can't pass on a great edge or a wide receiver or a corner for a tight end.
Is it?
I mostly feel like quarterbacks elevate tight ends anyway. You know, like your tight end is kind of sort of what your quarterback is. You know, sometimes, Bowers can elevate the Raiders or whatever, but he's special. For the most part, a nonsense tight end can be elevated by a great quarterback. I think Jake Ferguson, I ain't saying he's a nonsense guy, but I think he's been elevated by 4. So I think as long as you got 4, you have a tight end. But just because you got 4 don't mean you got right guard or edge or wide receiver 2 or corner 2.
And remember the connection that Ferguson and Dak had when they were both healthy for an entire season. I agree. I think Tyler Warren's a first-round player. I think he's a great prospect. At 12, I think there are other needs. I really do, and that's kind of where I'm at. Now, I want to circle back to
what
this.
about 3 technique?
That's
all day, every day.
Yeah, I think that's a need, though, wouldn't it be? Well, I guess you have Osa.
Resign Osa,
and Thomas, right?
Yeah, that would fit that.
Yeah, I wouldn't take one. Not
That's
there.
what I'm saying.
Yeah,
right? I would just that eliminate Nolan then. at 12?
Probably.
And now I could see them maybe taking Walter Nolan, but I'd rather go like Derek Harmon or Kenneth Grant, like one of the one techs.
Yeah,
that
I agree.
Slide in
I'm
there.
just saying the 3.
But you're right. Yeah.
I would just take Mason Graham, play him at one tech sometimes, and Solomon Thomas would just cease to exist for me, or just put him at 5 or something.
Yeah.
You like if you have an opportunity to take
Sure,
Mason Graham, you just get him.
Hey, maybe you move up and go get Mason Graham.
No,
Yeah.
You want to do that?
What are you doing?
Trade up?
I mean,
You're trying to draft Shedeur Sanders,
You don't
trade
want
all
Mason
of our
Graham?
draft capital. To
This is
go
the
up.
draft show. I'm trying to throw out some chum in the water.
Yeah, you're throwing
play the
chum.
game.
Content, but
It's
Play the
exactly
game.
what it is. I said this on The Fan actually this past weekend, but the thought process around Jerry having a conversation when Shedeur's there at 12, if he had a conversation for Johnny Manziel the way that
absolutely
he did,
he'll have a
he will
conversation.
have a
Better player.
conversation
He will.
if Sanders is there at 12.
He absolutely will.
What were
Sure.
you saying?
No, I'm just saying, sure.
Oh.
Yeah, they'll talk. Just like they talk
I
about.
just don't think it'll happen.
Yeah, I don't
I'm
think it will.
calling Indy. Be like, yo, Indy, please.
Bobby, do you think they would have Sanders over Ward?
Oh man, I know most of the league does. I don't know. In fact, I know that there's a lot of people in the league who have Dart above Sanders and have Shuck over Sanders, and so I mean, there's a lot more split opinions on Shedeur. I feel like I think that they will probably end up having Ward higher, is what I would guess. But obviously Ward's not going to be there. He's going to be the first quarterback off the board.
Yeah. Sure. John wants to know if the Cowboys were guaranteed to take a wide receiver in the second round, sitting there at 44, who would be the best fit for this team at wide receiver at 44?
Trey Harris.
Best fit. Trey Harris.
Jack Besh?
Besh, you could make a case for, but I'd go Trey Harris at Ole Miss. I've got him a little higher than Besh.
And I think he complements CeeDee Lamb well. He does a little bit of different things than what CeeDee brings.
But we're thinking the same type, right? X,
bigger dude,
bigger
guy.
bigger body. And Besh would be my second option to Trey Harris there, because I've got Jalen Royals sandwiched right in between them in my stack, but Royals is a little bit of a smaller player.
See, but you could put Royals in the slot and be okay.
No, and Royals, he reminds me a lot of Steve Smith. I mean, he's a thick build, explosive, and in the open field. You can do a lot with him. He can play on the outside more than some of these other smaller slot guys. But Trey Harris, man, I think he'd be a great compliment to CeeDee Lamb.
Physically, Harris may be more impressive, but I think Besh and his route running and his feel, I think that's going to translate to Dak a little bit better. That's just how I feel.
And the Dallas connection.
And we love a good story, Bobby. Come on, man.
Come on, you got the family ties.
Great story.
Even though I got Besh higher, I got a 2 on Besh and a 3 on Harris. I just think Besh fits a little better.
Well, and heck, Besh does have LSU wide receiver history. And
he does. He led as a freshman.
We know how these LSU wide receivers end up being, so I'm not going to fight it.
Do you think that they're not looking at the big receiver opposite because of Mingo?
I hope that ain't the case.
You think they're looking away from it, you mean?
They're thinking that Mingo is their X, and they're going to find somebody similar to how Lamb plays.
If I had to
or
guess,
a slot player.
If I had to guess, the only guys that they're really accounting for is Lamb and Turpin. If I had to guess, because Turpin just got money. But I would be gravely upset if they said, all right, we just going to lean into Mingo as big guy, and maybe we'll get a depth piece to go along.
I think Mingo's the backup plan.
Anybody want to bet lunch that's when they get up there and talk, that's going to be the case, that they're going to talk about Mingo? When somebody asks a question about receiver, Mingo is going to be the first name out of their mouth.
I think I would agree with you, because especially this front office, they believe Mingo can be a guy. They traded a 4th round pick for him. I don't think they've given up on him yet.
I'm playing CD in the slot so often that I don't think you have like a permanent X or Z, and so I'm not necessarily like gung ho about like I need to go get the bigger body. The guy I would get is Jalen Knoll. That's who I'd go get in the second.
Jalen Knoll, we argued about him last week. I'm a fan. I think he's the better of the two.
I love Knoll, and if you want to talk about, again, checking every box that Brian Schottenheimer's talking about in terms of establishing culture here, that's the guy. I think when you look at the tape, now there's obviously, he's available in the second round for a reason. There's stuff, I think, with his route efficiency and some of the polish that's not great. But I think the traits are off the charts. I think the work ethic is really, really high. I was talking to Brent Calloway in Indianapolis, who runs Exos, and he was talking about Jalen, and he said he's the valedictorian of our performance program this year. That dude is always the first up. He's an hour there. He's there an hour before the workouts start. He is the one holding everybody accountable. He's the one saying, lifting up the workouts. He is as hard a worker as I've ever had. I mean, he's somebody who I think everything you hear, he checks a ton of boxes for them.
So, Brian, Mingo may keep them from going wide receiver in day 2. there's no way that keeps them from looking at wide receiver at 12 overall, is it?
No.
See, that's the question I'm asking. That's the question. I mean, I think they would take McMillan.
I think, I would hope.
I would think.
We hope. Why do we have to? That's what I'm saying. Why is this a coin flip? Why is it maybe
because there's multiple needs. It goes back to the conversation we just had. What don't they need at 12?
There's
they're going to try and sell us Mingo.
There's never a world they should sell me Mingo. Oh yeah, we passed on McMillan, and look, Mingo is the best player on our board. If we put McMillan next to Mingo,
they told me he's a top of the second round guy.
They will say that to us. I'm just hoping that they don't look at McMillan and go, oh, well, we're going to go with the corner that Brian doesn't like because we got Mingo.
Will Johnson.
Yeah. I didn't even bring you.
That's a real Johnson. It's a realistic scenario.
Of course it is.
Absolutely.
Of course it is. So I'm just saying. Yeah. I'd be sick.
Okay. All right. We got to take our second break. When we come back, I've got some Tell Me More names. I want to hear some scouting reports on some lesser-known guys, lesser-named guys.
Twitter got 2 answers in. My bad, y'all.
One of them, thanks, Voch.
Hey,
Appreciate you, man. 3 questions.
Voch on the 28,
2 of them from the fans, 1 from Voch. We'll be back right after this.
No problem.
I'm Darren Woodson, former Dallas Cowboy player and Super Bowl champion. When I played in the NFL at a high level, I relied on my vision to see the field. As I started getting older, I noticed my vision wasn't as good, and I was getting frustrated from wearing my glasses all day. I went to Laser Care Eye Center, and Dr. G talked about all the options. Thanks to technology and Laser Care Eye Center, I can see near, far, and between. Don't fumble your vision any longer. Visit them at dfweyes.com and tell them Darren sent you. They got me back on my game.
Star Sports Tours is the only official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, offering exclusive game weekend travel packages with pre-game sideline access and photo ops with current players, cheerleaders, and Cowboy legends. You want to stay at a team hotel, attend the best tailgate party in Texas, tour the Star, and talk X's and O's with me, Everson Walls? With Star Sports Tours, you can. Visit cowboystravel.com to book your travel package today.
Life is a workout, and Smoothie King is here to help you power through. Whether you're maxing out overhead presses, pushing through chest flies, or being the hero your golden retriever needs to carry them over that scary bridge, Smoothie King has the fuel to help you go all out. Build muscle and boost your recovery with 45 grams of protein, 0 grams of added sugar, and delicious customizable ingredients in the Gladiator Smoothie. Available in chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla. Only at Smoothie King.
How about them Cowboys? Or how about them Tyson Cowboys Nuggets? As we cheer for the stars on the field, we love that we've also got some stars on our plate, thanks to Tyson brand star-shaped Cowboys Nuggets. That, along with all our other favorite Tyson Foods products, sure make game day special. Score some delicious Tyson Cowboys Nuggets and become a game day star, just like our Cowboys. As you enjoy your stars on and off the plate, remember, tailgates and game day have always been Tyson.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
Step into spring with fresh styles and Cowboys pride. Score some swimwear, lightweight tees, hats, and more at a pro shop near you or shop online at shop.dallascowboys.com. A Fanatics experience. You can also get the Dallas Cowboys Star Magazine draft guide from the pro shop as well, as that's available starting this week, both online and in stores as you do your shopping this weekend. Look for it. It's a good-looking magazine. Absolutely. It's wonderful.
It's gorgeous.
Got 110 bios and scouting reports in there. I want to add a couple scouting reports here if you've got some time. A little Tell Me More as we wrap up this episode of the Draft Show. Brian, I'll start with you on this one. I want to hear about Jamari Harris, corner from Iowa.
Yeah, Jamari Harris. Let me get to Jamari Harris. Mm-hmm. He is a starting left corner for the Hawkeyes, and he plays a ton of zone coverage. He's got length. He's a smooth player. There's a twitchy element to his game. The reactions to his ability to read the routes and stuff like that. He could run the route at times better than the receiver in coverage. You think he's guessing, but he really, really isn't. He sees the development of the play. He's on top of it. The ball skills are outstanding. He's in position for overthrows. There's just, when quarterbacks tend to be reckless with the ball, this guy is kind of in that spot. I will say this, though. You have to be able to understand this guy plays sideways a lot, and then he adjusts his route he adjusts his coverage as the route comes off. He only has adequate top end speed. He really, really does. Smith by Ohio State just ran right by him, and Smith runs by a lot of people. But you've got to understand that this guy is really a zone player. He'll need some work as a man cover guy. If your scheme is really, really zone heavy, this is your guy because he thrives playing this way. 6'1", 191, but man, he will compete in the tackling aspect of it. But like you say, it's really about being able to read and react, and that's what he does pretty well in zone coverage.
And he's also one of these older guys. He's going to be 25 in September.
Wow. So is Terrence Newman.
He's a 6-year guy. Yeah, he started 27 games. But you're right. Like the double moves that can get him, and you can pick on him underneath. Yep. Now, he'll come up and tackle, but when he's playing off, that's when you'll see a lot of teams. Yep. They're just going to get the ball out quick to him. Now he's got to come up and make the play.
He's always a little late, too.
Yes.
Right? Just a little late.
A little bit late. But he'll try and bait quarterbacks. Like you're right. Like he is very instinctive, looking and keying on the quarterback, reading the eyes, and then he'll come up there. I mean, tremendous ball skills, and the arm length is there to be able to come in and strike as soon as the ball lands. So he is an intriguing day 3 option if you don't land a cornerback in day 1 or 2.
He's instinctive. The awareness is really good. I 100% agree with everything Brian said about zone specific, a guy who the top end speed isn't there. The guy he reminded me of, somebody here in Dallas who didn't play a ton, but similar player coming out and some of the stuff we saw during training camp. He reminds me a lot of Donovan Alumba when he was here. Same sort of like bigger guy, bigger build, without top end speed.
Did Bobby just kill him in your eyes?
I ain't heard that name in years, man.
Donovan Alumba, I would have given Donovan Alumba more of a shot. I thought he was a good player, but zone specific. I would not throw him out there to play man coverage.
And it was the comeback player of the year honoree for Iowa in 2023. Suffered some injury in 2022.
I think he also got suspended 2 games for gambling.
Did he?
At Iowa. Yeah, he was kind of a little gambling.
I mean, who hasn't?
But hey, that's fine with me.
Was he playing a little over-under with you?
Yeah, it might have been more or less.
Like gambling? He was like shooting dice or something.
No, I think it was like gambling.
Sports gambling? Okay,
yeah.
I got you.
Taking the unders on Iowa offense like everybody else.
Daily fantasy, man. Get in on that. Why not?
Yeah,
players
there's a lot of reasons. Do not get in on it. Don't do that. Bad idea. All right, next one up.
Don't do that.
Bad idea. I forgive me on the name pronunciation. I'm going to look it up as you guys give it. But Jay Tuia or Toia from, is it Toia?
I thought it was Toia.
Is it Toia?
I think it's Toia.
We'll go with Toia from UCLA, interior defensive lineman. Who's got him?
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Massive nose man for the Bruins. He comes from a family of athletes. His brothers and he had a brother, NFL player, college players. This is a rugby family too, so he maybe has some little Jordan Mailata in his blood. But he is from Tonga, and he has been a 3-year starter. There's some initial quickness. This guy's 6'2", 342 pounds. He could be a load to deal with inside. His first initial contact is pretty powerful, and you kind of see blockers get knocked back a little bit. And I thought the power and strength was good. He's not a long arm guy, so he's just kind of there trying to eat up space in the way that his plays. His movement's not poor for his size, but you'll see him play down the line and up the field when chasing. He's got that nose tackle thickness to him. Will battle all kinds of blocks, and he can cause problems as a pass rusher just on the penetration part of it. But if he has to start, stop, then restart, he's likely going to get stuck along the line of scrimmage. And I think that he has to keep moving in order to have a chance to make the play. Teams that run wide on him tend to give him more problems because he just can't get all the way to the outside there. So he's only had 2 sacks in 3 seasons, and so he needs to play in a technique where he could be a head-up nose or just that one technique. But he will surprise you with his athletic ability.
Is that the way an NFL team would look at him? Is it if they're looking at him as a one tech and a guy that maybe could be a late day 3
rotational
mid
player,
3 rotational guy?
Pounds, I'd absolutely look at. Yeah, there's several times you watch him play. I mean, the USC game, the Washington game. Yeah, I mean, he's like head up nose, and he's those guys have a hard time moving him in ways. But like I say, when he could go forward, he's really good. When he gets that momentum, he's hard to stop. But as I mentioned, start, stop, then restart. he's balls out. He's just he kind of gets caught up along the line of scrimmage.
He moves pretty well for his size, and the hustle and efforts there. I mean, he ends up getting rewarded on some hustle plays by circling back and making a sack or a tackle against the run, and he shows some good awareness against the screens, able to sniff out a screen in the Iowa game that was pretty darn impressive. I liked him. I liked him quite a bit as a day 3 option.
So I have found his pronunciation on UCLA's athletic website.
Heard.
Toia. There's 3
Remember
syllables
Siaka Ika?
Brother from LSU.
Yeah, they're related.
Yeah.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Yeah, Toia is how you say his last name. But Vach, do you have anything on Toia?
Nah, man, I haven't seen him. He was way at the bottom of my list, man. My bad.
I know you've seen Kevin Winston Jr., the safety from Penn State. Tell me about him.
First thing I want to look at when I see these safeties, free safeties, I want to know, can they tackle? And Kevin Winston is a tackling fool, and I just stand up and clap every time I see him do it. But he's also a really good cover guy. Whether it's 1 high, 2 high, it's probably going to be more of a 2 high kind of dude. I don't think he has the range to go from one side of the field to the other numbers or whatnot. But I think just as a rangy dude, high safety on the roof guy tackle, I think he's pretty good. I seen him walk him down sometimes.
Yeah.
They'll walk him down the strong. I like him more back as a support tackle dude, you know what I'm saying? But as a covering free, sometimes tackling dude, I like him.
He's an Energizer Bunny type of player, dude. He kind of gives me like a little Earl Thomas vibes when you watch him. He's just a much bigger player than where Earl was.
6'2", 215.
And only 1 year of starting experience, but he can play all over the secondary. He's got range. He can cover the slot, deep free, as you mentioned there, Vach. Can also play in the box, consistent tackler, short area quickness, explosiveness to make plays in space. The only negative really is he can be a little over aggressive.
Yeah.
Like he might just over pursue because he comes in like a Tasmanian devil, overruns a play. But Kevin Winston Jr., I was a huge fan, just was injured week 2 of last season in practice, missed the whole season. So there's some injury background that you've got to kind of figure out with him. But a team captain, he's one of these another one of these safeties that can be a big-time improvement for you.
Where do you have him?
Second round.
I got him in 3rd.
You got him in the 2nd. That's and coming off of an injury like that, like you said, it was a partially torn ACL. Missed the season. Suffered against Bowling Green. We were watching Fannin Jr., the tight end, and he was going up against him for a little bit before he ended up getting hurt.
That's a high IQ player.
It is.
By the way.
I got to watch him back, I guess, because I watched him a little while ago, and I did not see Free at all. I think he's the best player we're going to talk about here, but that's a strong exclusive to me. That is a strong safety. Play him downhill. Do not have him in coverage is what I saw.
Yeah, great athletic build, sure tackler, closing speed showed on tape is some of the notes that I've got. I didn't see a ton of vision. I didn't see that footwork and that instinct that going downhill, kind of like what Bobby's saying. I didn't see a ton of coverage there. I watched him against West Virginia, and then I took the 2023 tape against Rutgers and Ohio State, looked at him a little bit there. I think he can play downhill better than anybody. Maybe not better than anybody. That's probably too much, but probably up with the better safeties in this draft.
He can cover tight ends. I mean, his length and his size, he's got some size, versatility. I saw a guy that can flip his hips and be able to run with receivers. But like I said, we'll have to see how the knee injury hurts his mobility on that.
Yeah, especially change of direction, a little bit questionable there. Jake Brenningstool, we talked to him, a tight end out of Clemson during our time at the Senior Bowl. Why'd you make that?
I tell you what, man, when I was watching film on, the first thing I thought was, boy, Mike McCarthy will love this kid.
Yeah.
They run some hitches and slants over there, boy.
Yeah, they do. A lot of misdirection with him.
A lot of run around the circle, run through the line of scrimmage and get magically open some of those plays. I hate those plays.
They're kind of scheming him open.
I hate that. But most of his plays are, we're going to run some hitches, we're going to run some slants, we're going to run some outs. That's really what it is. Doesn't really have a deep game to him. He could be a somewhat yak guy, like if he get a couple of steps, but they tackle him for the most part. I didn't think he was that big of a dude, and I think that they move him around because they just can't keep him in line. I don't think he's going to block anybody.
Him or Gadsden?
Syracuse?
Yeah.
I put Gasson over him.
It's a Rondé, yeah.
I put Gasson over him.
Touch and tags for me, but I have Brenningstool a little bit better.
I liked him more than you did at 6'6", 241. Like, he's a guy that I think can run the seam. I think he can give you something down the field. And for a 6'6" guy, he'll go down and catch some balls that are low on him, too.
Yeah, for sure.
He'll dig something out of the dirt for you. But you're right, he's used a ton in misdirection. And you do see him engage and climb to the second level. He just doesn't have a ton of power. And there's not a lot of bend there either because he's such a tall guy.
Well, he's only 240.
But I mean, to be, he needs to put on some power,
put on some weight.
But as a number 2 tight end that'll develop over the course of his career, he could end up developing into an impactful player.
He's a good route runner too for a tight end. I thought he ran routes pretty well. He's a big play threat. They used him over the top quite a bit.
Did anybody watch the SMU game?
No, I saw Miami, Wake Forest, and Georgia.
That's a bad thing about tight end too.
He got tossed around pretty good in the SMU game. Yeah, our end Roberts. Got him a couple times.
He's tough because he looks like a receiver. He looks like a big receiver out there. He's not athletic enough to be a big receiver at the NFL level.
Correct.
That's the biggest problem.
Would you play Gadsden a big receiver then?
He's tweener, so probably I could see him playing big receiver. I think there's flexibility with Gadsden. The thing here with him,
I don't think he can play in line though.
I just watched him for the first time yesterday. The Clemson tight end.
Oh, okay.
I just watched him for the first time yesterday when we were talking about who we were going to discuss, and I see a guy who can be a contributor in a tight end room. I don't think that's ever going to develop into a starter. I wrote in here that he looks like a big receiver, doesn't have the athleticism or polish to transition. I think the lack of athleticism keeps defenders in his pocket pretty consistently. It causes some suffocation in man coverage. He sits down in zone. He's pretty aware. He's good there.
Yeah, I agree.
But I don't think you can just say, like, all right, that's our starting. I don't think that's going to be a guy he develops into at any point.
No, it's a good point. And the guy that I compared him to when I was looking at the film and looking back at notes was Harrison Bryant. From a couple years ago, you remember?
Sure.
Another 6'5", kind of undersized, slender build to him. And Bryant, to your point, Bobby, never really stuck around.
Number 2 tight end.
Hadn't played very well with Cleveland. Still in the league currently. He's with the Eagles now. He's the backup currently in Philadelphia, but was with the Raiders last year. He's been on the active roster, but he's been a backup tight end and hasn't necessarily developed into a big play threat like they thought maybe out of the 4th round that they drafted him out of FAU back in 2020.
I compared him to Dorial Green Beckham with Tease Tabor speed. That's what I
okay.
Like.
Dorial Green. Okay, well then
that was for Brian. That was just for Brian.
Missouri.
All right. You loved Dorial Green Beckham. We all did.
He was a good player.
I was looking at you, Bobby, and I was like, everybody's entitled.
That's 12 years ago that day.
All right, that's going to do it for us here on the Draft Show. Hope you had some fun with us here over this last hour. When we come back on Thursday, we'll officially be 3 weeks out from the NFL Draft. It is coming up very, very quickly. For Zach Wolchuk, Brian Broaddus, Vachlin Barty, Bobby Belt with Chris Beam in the back. I'm Kyle Yeomans saying so long. We'll see you on Thursday with more of the Draft Show.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!